Welcome back, Visions fans. Ready Player Will here with JB79. This is episode 4 of the Leonis report. Apologies for not being here last week. JB had a superb vacation that he went away on.
I
JB, if you
did.
want to say hi and talk a little bit about it if you want.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, I was down in Argentina, went to Buenos Aires for a few days, and on to Patagonia. It was a celebration with my wife for our 10-year anniversary. We did that with a couple of friends of ours and had a blast. Really beautiful down there, and had like just a ton of fun. So glad to be back though, and obviously the game took kind of a backseat for me there for a while. I tried to log in and kind of keep up with what I could, but obviously had some better things to do. So it
Definitely.
was good to kind of disconnect for a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, glad you came back, not had others that temptation to keep it down.
Yeah.
Well, good. So we got a whole lineup of stuff to talk about today. I know just glossing over it from the top here, we're going to look at limited guild battle this last week, a little bit about Sephiroth and the dark meta. We're going to talk about Rysol and Hyoh. I know by the time this airs tomorrow, we'll actually have the information on Hyoh. So we'll, some speculation today. We'll see how that ages. I think we've...
It's exciting.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm very excited. Tempered expectations, though. I'll dive into that more when we get there. But yeah, we'll kick things off here. So Battlegrounds Arda, we're going to be looking at the limited Guild War battle, dark meta tips and tricks, and little Leela, the SR unit. Is she here to stay? What are people thinking? So did you get to participate in it at all much, or were you kind of more distracted?
I did. So I kind of, we did all the setup, kind of before I left, and I think there may have been a match or two even before I actually took off. But obviously, Dark was very much in play. Pretty much all the top competition we faced were running pretty much pure Dark, and there wasn't really anything else that was competing. Maybe a little bit of ice and winds, but as far as I could see, Sephiroth was pretty dominant. What about you? What were you seeing in your bracket?
The same. Sephiroth was literally on every team. There were different variations. Some went. I mean, Halloween Lucia was almost a given as well in every comp, and that third unit was either someone like Lemeray or SR Little Leela for various reasons. And I know we ran it as Wall, VIP did, so like obviously like, we endorse it too. I actually on offense for the full week ran Light and did. I mean, to be fair, it's limited Guild War, so the level of competition varies, but did very well with Light. I did Warrior Light and Mashari, who I actually
Oh,
reincarnated them, I
nice.
think like 10 levels. And it was fun. I started off with Sakura as the third. She gets absolutely wiped, though, like just evaporated. So I ended up switching her for Jaden, and actually had some, like, Warrior of Light's actually exceptionally good. Again, it's cost limited, so temper expectations, but like the self heal, he had like Protect and Shell, and Sephiroth can't dispel Protect, and like, well, he can on the sub job, but you need to have the sub job. It's just very fun. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you could run like if you have the Final Fantasy 14 card, you could main slot that and then White Dragon in the sub, and that's
yeah,
pretty cheap as MR. So
yep,
you can get like a decent amount of dark resist there. And I
yep.
saw a couple teams that some of our people that weren't really paying attention attacked them and just got wiped.
Yep.
Because it's like, oh, this team is just stacked dark.
Exactly. And I know, like, I was
Um,
using Mashari's Dark Veil, so even that Dark resist up to start the battle for him. He was taking, like 800 damage from Halloween Lucia, not even. It was great.
yeah, like we said, kind of a couple of weeks ago or whatever. That is one definite way to get to him, and that's been proven out.
Definitely.
What did you think of the map and kind of how that impacted the play?
Uh, Very simple map, to be honest, for better or worse. There's really only, like, one main choke point, per se. Obviously, you can make your tank uh, go first slot or third slot and kind of alter things, but people inevitably, end up kind of toward the middle.
Yeah,
So
it was
it's,
pretty much a bloodbath there in the middle
yeah, pretty
every
vanilla.
time.
Yeah. So, like, get that
So
buffer two off and then go from there.
the one thing that we worked on was we were obviously all the teams the majority of the teams were using Little Leela. Uh, you know, the SR scrolls were very cheap. People
Yep.
wanted to reincarnate her and pump up her stats, but the silence was just dominant. Just any kind of magic unit just completely gets shut down. So we were thinking, and I was like, what about Summer Katone's TMR? And that one, if you don't remember, it has silence, resist, nullify, and it's got
Yes.
two casts on it. So basically, what I did is I had Sephiroth come in, buff Leela, Lucia come in, buff Leela. Then she casts the silence resist and moves in,
Smart.
and it just worked perfectly against other dark teams. So I was just dark hunting. I threw in the Demon Wall vision card
Yep.
for the dark resist. And yeah, I was getting 6 stars, sometimes 9 stars every day.
Very
So
smart. That's the way to do it. Yeah, I mean, she is a
yeah,
great tank for them too, because you figure like Halloween Lucia magic is really the primary weakness, and then same thing with Sephiroth. That if she can just silence any kind of magic users you bring, you essentially take away their weakness in itself. And she really doesn't require that many buffs to ramp up. Even her like magic shield buff or whatever it is, I don't even think it's necessary, to be honest. Like she lives long enough, fights end pretty quickly that you can get away with running that TMR that you did and still be very
yeah.
successful. Yeah.
It was. I mean, it was pretty much by turn two. She was able to hit. So I had her buff move in. Turn two, people were in range and just got silenced, and everybody moved in for the cleanup. So
I love it. I have no doubt that's going to be a staple for limited Guild War stuff for the like foreseeable future. And that's probably it, to be honest. I don't see her like making a big splash anywhere else, but it's the cost limited stuff she absolutely shines. Same with Hellblade
yeah,
Lucia. Same thing.
yeah, and that definitely bled into class match. We definitely were seeing little Leelas in there as well because
Yep.
obviously there was the cost restriction, and I was actually using that team. I used the same team
Me too.
in
Me too.
class match and was working great. I was able to play the first 3 days manual like I normally like to do. Got off to a great start. I was like 14-1, and then I had to go on vacation, and then I missed a couple days. I just had to
Yep.
throw out some auto battles, and so yeah, I'll be back for the next season. But it was a fun map.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about it last time, but
Yep.
how did you end up doing?
So I actually missed 2 days as well for literally no good reason other than like I missed the windows in which it was open to operate in. One was too early, one was too late, one was the middle of the workday, so it's tough. But I think I ended up in like the 200s. I am technically like the top like tier or whatever it's called, diamond or whatever. But
Diamond Master? Yeah.
yeah, but no, I overall did relatively well. I couldn't tell you my win loss rate off the top of my head, but definitely way more wins than losses. It was fun seeing the different variations of things people ran to start. I know there was some like we call them like Zerg comps, like put them in the closest slot possible, and people were running like Skahal bombs and just like Skahal and Quicken and just like seeing what they could blast, and that didn't last very long. By the end of the week, everyone was running the same dark team.
Looking forward to the next one. At this point, I think we're getting towards the end of what they call the grand season, which then they'll reset the whole ladder, and everybody will start back out down at bronze or whatever.
Yep.
Technically, JP was already, I think, resetting it by this point, but we've kind of diverged a little bit from them. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, it's fun to see it reset. Obviously, kind of shake things up and give people a fresh slate. But either way, take the rewards when I can. Still building those Hermes sandals. That's collect those
Yeah.
medals. That's basically it.
I'm getting closer on my plat armor.
I love it.
10 recipes away now.
That's pretty close, to be honest. Oh, and the 10 times medals this week in class match, not class match, free match. That's just
So good.
so good. It's insane how good it is. Yeah.
If anybody at Gumi is listening, please do that like once a month. It would go a long way. We need like 360,000 medals to be able to +6 just one item. So 10 times medals, it was much easier to get matches, very quickly,
Yeah.
and made a big difference for the mode. So
Yeah.
hopefully they can start doing that more regularly.
And to be honest, I actually do think it is once a month already. Because I know when I was farming
Is it?
the Sage Staff +6, those weeks, I was like counting them. I was like drooling for them because obviously like the arena medals were way more than like what it takes. So yeah, like once a month, one of the weeks they would do 5 times medals for arena and 10 times for free match, and boy, just feast.
Nice.
Yeah. So good.
So we do have some new equipment that's going to be coming in this week.
Yes.
Rysol's Dagger.
Oh, you call her Rysol. I'm glad you call her Rysol.
So that's the correct pronunciation, apparently. I would have been calling her, originally from the JP side, I was calling her Lysol. But yeah, Rysol is how they pronounced it actually in the story mission.
Okay, so I've been calling her Rysol. I literally filmed my character review today, and I think I called her Rysol throughout the whole thing. So
Yeah,
that's yeah,
I don't think anybody cares.
yeah,
Maybe Justin does.
right. Yeah, that's it. No, but they're giving her this new dagger. Uh, For her, it's a good dagger. I don't think it's gonna make a huge splash for anyone else. I actually was looking at the conditions because right, you have like thief and assassin here, and there's really not that many jobs that are or characters that are eligible for them that are the main job wielders. I think it was like Venera. Does this apply for sub jobs or no?
I
I don't.
don't think it would have. No, I don't, it shouldn't apply to sub jobs.
That's what I thought. So yeah, so I'm looking at the unit list there, and obviously you're looking at what classes, and so thief was the first, and then
Thief and assassin.
assassin, right? So if you, yeah, like the selection, I don't think this dagger is going to vastly change any of these characters.
Yeah. So originally, when I looked at this, I thought that anybody that could equip it would get that. But yeah, it is very limited, based on that condition. Pretty decent buff though, like for Venera, but she's
Yeah,
just not really, that great of a unit these days.
exactly. It's not enough to make a splash, and even the 12 slash res pen, it's nice that they added that. Every weapon at this point has like a defense pen, a modifier, and like a weapon type pen. So kind of overdue that they did this, but I don't think that extra 10 really changes much anyway. It's good for Rysol, but that's about it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's really using Vadim or Mia all that much.
No, 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 no.
Maybe in PvE.
Right? That's about it. And then, so on that note, though, they are also releasing Rysol's vision card here, sharpening the dragon's talons. Any thoughts immediately for this for you? Obviously, a lot of great faces on this beautiful infographic you made.
Yeah, so this it's coming next week, but
Thank you.
they definitely they gave us the preview this week. It's an amazing card, I think, because you get the 25 accuracy, and it's gonna obviously there's a lot of characters on the card here that really could benefit from that. You think about even somebody like Esther, Sottily is another good one.
Yeah.
Then you got the dark cast there with Leela and Joker, even Ruin Stern. Um, it's really nice. I love that you get the attack bonus and the slash resist. When you think about needing that accuracy, a lot of evade units were pretty much primarily going to be slash damage. So I think it gives you kind of everything that you're looking for, kind of in a package here.
Yeah. No, totally agreed. Seems to be focused on a couple elements in particular. Wind and dark obviously stand out. Lightning too to some degree. I do like that wind in particular. This seems like prime, just because there's also the holiday party vision card for wind, which is 50% attack. So I could easily see like a main slot, sub slot dynamic there. And to your point, yeah, the 25 accuracy. Almost all elements have a card that has that 25 accuracy, but they're not all created equal, right? Some of those cards are better than others. The fact that now you can use this card in lieu of that, I think is great. The slash res, is obviously a nice amount. That's a very strong amount, but I have mixed feelings on it because what I've seen recently, let's say with Sephiroth, right? He has like near permanent 100% slash res pen uptime, like after Hell's Gate. So that 24 slash res literally means essentially nothing other than if there was a slash in peril. You mentioned this before that like,
Yeah.
take someone negative, you got to start positive. So I like it for hedging against those imperils, but even someone like Yuffie and Psaro have shown that they have access to some decent enough slash res pen that I think it's the weakest part, but it's still good.
Yeah, I mean they do kind of have like a ramping effect on their slash res pen, but any sort of early chip type damage that you can kind of mitigate, and essentially for free in this case, because you're assuming you're building an evade hunting party, you're going to want this accuracy,
Right.
and at that point, this is just kind of a throw in. So
Exactly. It's a nice bonus.
wind, I will say, wind is one of the elements that doesn't have a 25 ac card. At least as far as I remember, they do have the Typhon card, which is 15, but
Thank you.
so
That's what I've been thinking about. But you're right. Typhon is technically universal, but that goes in the wind team most often. So that's
right.
that's a good call out on that.
And it has pretty much all of the latest wind units. The only one missing there is Glassy. So
Right. Right. And although Glassy does have the Nightblade sub, so she could theoretically benefit from it. There we go. But other than that, I do like to see Jum on there. That's obviously like a natural synergy to go with go with Rysol, and I think that's really it. Saddle is not a candidate for that. Although is kind of a never going to be used, but
still waiting for Mastery 4, I guess.
yeah, Either way, I mentioned this in my Rysol review. I am intrigued though that on the just on the topic of vision cards, that the two global exclusives we have for Resnick the Hoppy and Sylvie are both Dagger eligible, which is not the case in JP. They don't have those. So really interesting this week with Rysol on that topic, or Rysol, to throw those in the mix as well when you talk about like building these teams.
Yeah, I'm curious to see the numbers on the bestowed buff for Resnick. Obviously, she can get super accurate herself if you focus her towards it. So
Yep.
could be kind of sneaky good for her.
And then on that note of vision cards, we also have Hyoh's vision card out. And obviously, we don't have the numbers exactly backing it up yet, but we do know it's agility up, critical hit rate up, and magic res up for the party.
So this one should be an 18% agility card, which is cool. And then I expect like 16 crit rate and then 20% magic resist. I think we can pretty much bank on those being the numbers. What do you think of the small power creep on agility? Obviously, we're expecting to see that first on the Full Metal Alchemist card, which should be coming in shortly. This is going to be for that sort of greatsword classes that are going to be coming in on this one.
Yeah, honestly, I need to actually run some numbers on it to compare because not all characters, the way the game rounds, right? They always round down, and agility, base agility, because it typically ranges in that, what, like 50-ish range. Even if you go from 15% to 18%, it doesn't always round up in your favor. So I am curious to see which characters that does happen to be the case for those characters. You'd be surprised. Those 1 or 2 extra agility points are very material when you talk about like which team gets to go first and how it affects just like, I don't know, mirror matchups if one team has more than the other. It's very, very big potentially.
Yeah. So in terms of like the character sheet and what you actually see in the display, it does round down, but in the back end, in terms of like it calculating the CT, it does keep track of the fractionals, and that's how it actually will break ties. Unless somebody is actually identical, and then in that case, the person who's hosting or player one would actually break the tiebreaker there. But
You've mentioned
yeah,
that to me before, and I completely forgot. So thank you again for bringing it up. It's seriously like a very underrated thing to understand.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right because the way the
it's
CT bar it's over 1,000, and it's
mhm.
not technically in the tens. So thank you.
It'll be cool to see the full numbers on this. I'm wondering the bestowed effect there. I do like defense piercing rate up. If that's going to be 20, like we've seen on some of the other cards, that'll be pretty cool.
Yep.
And then we see some kind of hints towards some accuracy here for Hyoh. So I'm kind of wondering if that's a hint that maybe he could be maybe a little bit of an evade hunter,
I
which
I hope
is
so.
generally that's kind of rare for great swords. So that would be pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's spoiler alert, I'm a little underwhelmed with what I've seen from Hio for what my expectations were. So I'm on some serious copium still, like hope like looking for like where I think he could shine, and the accuracy is where like I have like a hidden hope still. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. We'll talk about that
Yeah.
again soon though. But no, love
Yep.
the card. Agility up, that's like one of those metrics that really like defines a team. And so when you talk about these like, you know, dual element or rainbow teams, things that you normally wouldn't fit together, having an agility card here for these jobs, particularly because there's not a lot of job-based vision cards for these jobs, suddenly opens up some doors. I couldn't, you know, obviously can't quantify who it's going to impact the most or like what it's going to be, but very, very happy to see an agility card for these classes.
It's again, yeah, like you were saying, it's one of those cards that you can and effects that you can build around, and yeah, gray swords they're starting to build up the amount of cards, and maybe they'll go on a little bit of a run here, and we'll be seeing more great sword teams. Obviously, within that group, there is Joom, who is still a pretty good tank, and you can throw a couple damage dealers behind her, and maybe have a halfway decent team.
Definitely. Absolutely. First thought that comes to mind. I agree. Good. All right. So we'll transition to the war room where we talk a little more about unit reviews and meta formations and map analyses. And I know we're going to talk about Yuffie and Fire Evade and then a little more about Rysol and Hyoh, what we know so far. But yeah, so we'll talk about Yuffie. Obviously, brand new unit that came out for us last week. Toxic Evade. Yeah, like between her and Sweetheart Eldyra and Psaro, you're looking at a pretty hefty mountain to overcome there. Have you
Yeah.
seen any of them yet, or done anything with Yuffie in particular for that?
So I'm kind of all in on Yuffie at this point. was kind of waiting to a little. I played around a little bit with Sephiroth. I reincarnated him a few times, and I kind of thought about it while I was on vacation there for a little while. I was like, I really want to go with Yuffie, and that's I dumped a bunch of scrolls into her. I have her pretty heavily reincarnated, and yeah, I got her probably right around 360% or high, or maybe even a bit higher on her evade. And I've been running her with King Mont and Sorrow in arena this week, and I haven't lost yet. And I've been going
Awesome.
against I've been going against Dark. I've been going against Wind, going against all the teams that typically could handle evade teams fairly well, and it's been doing great. So I'm pretty impressed with it. And yeah, Toxic Evade, I'd say part three at this point.
Yeah.
Initially early on, we had the Veneras and Ruin Sterns and little Leelas, and version two was Elena and Locke,
Yep.
and this is now version three. I think we're gonna be seeing it for a while.
I would agree. And I credit to RNJ today, who actually released a video about her AI. That was one of the things when I was doing my character review. I had like 4 asterisks on the grades because I kept trying to reiterate that like there's actually some very complex things to work out in terms of agility, turn order, movement, their buffs, because there's so many buffs that they share. And obviously they're the kind of buffs that they'll use in rotation and repeat if you don't do it properly. That I wanted to like caution people to be like, she's like a stellar meta defining unit, but it's not easy. Not like it was for Elena, where you just say, all right, she procs courage and goes forward, or like, even like Lila, who doesn't even have an evasion buff, she was just naturally evasive. There's definitely room to like not use them properly, and trying to like temper expectations and make people think a little more, because yeah, when used properly, it's very cool, and there is still counterplay, but like if you don't do it properly, you're gonna get Sephiroth just one shotting the whole team,
Right.
if you know what I mean, with his limit break, and that's you look
Yeah,
out for that.
everybody talks about the kind of the sure hit nullification that she has, but has been pointed out by you and others, that is pretty far down in the AI priority list. So not only with the AI priority, but also her movement, it's very very easy for her just to go into battle and not use that at all,
Yep.
depending on how you've set things up. So it's definitely kind of a higher IQ unit, I'd say, to use, and um, it's easy to kind of go wrong with it, I would say, if you don't know what you're doing.
Definitely. And so you've been using all this fire recently. Did you go for Dark Ifrit? I think you said you did. And
I
yeah,
did go for Dark Ifrit. It's was not a good pull session. I had to go full pity, and it was not not a good day for that. But
everyone I've talked to was
uh,
the same. I was halfway. Arn was like
uh,
3/4 of the way. It's a lot of Viz. That was a drain.
the worst part is that you gotta spend all the medals on this on the card, and then you have nothing left for shards. So
Yep.
yeah, at this point, I have to make some decisions now. I'm gonna have to skip a unit or two because of that,
Me
and
too.
that's it's unfortunate. But we do have some units that are coming in that are going to be permanent pool, which are the prime ones, I'd say, to skip, because you can always kind of pick them up off banner or on select tickets later. So
Absolutely.
that's, I think, what I'm going to be looking to do.
Yeah, same. Have you done any tinkering? Dark Ifrit versus Dark Tetra? Fire is very fortunate that they get 2 of those high octane vision cards and espers, technically.
So both of them are perfectly viable there, and I think there's going to be occasions where you might prefer one or over the other. Personally, I have been going Dark Ifrit because at that point you can play around with the passives on Sorrow and Yuffie and optimize their evade even higher. And my philosophy with evade is you got to go all in, and at that point, I can still have Yuffie and Sorrow, maybe around 50-ish, maybe even up to 55 on their defense pen, which I think is acceptable,
Me too.
and I can get maybe another 8 to 10 evade on them because of it.
Definitely. Yeah, no, that's true. Evade, obviously, you want to try to go all in. And that being said, too, like, you still want to give them some metric of survivability. So Dark Tetra, I think, takes the cake for me in terms of, like, providing that unit res. That being said, in the evasion teams of building, it is still difficult to get that Dark Tetra main vision card slot, because you still go Sorrow vision card. I'm still doing the Yuffie vision card as one of the other main ones. And then, yeah, after that, it's basically just deciding what you want to do for some kind of survivability or offense or whatever it is. But yeah, to your point, Dark
Hmm.
Effort's a great like Swiss Army knife to play around with the defense pen, whether it's main slot or sub slot, and who's got enough of it already, and obviously the rest of that card's interesting too. So really, Fire got very lucky there. Well overdue.
The other,
Fire was bad for a while. It's about time.
oh yeah, the other thing I like about it is it actually pumps up King Mont's damage a decent amount too. Like he, especially maybe if you can, if you're not maybe going for full evade and then you drop in maybe his own vision card there, he picks up even a little bit more defense pen, and suddenly you can maybe get him up to maybe 40% or so defense pen, and he's popping off a little bit. So
most definitely. Two of the cool things about the vision cards is the agility on them both. So when you talk about like really hyper tuning your turn order and whatnot, like what's in the main slot, sub slot, and who gets what, those are actually very important tools to get the agility tuning down right.
yeah, and luck too on both of them, which if you're building King Mon for evade, that that's going to make him just a little bit more evasive.
Yep.
In my build, I actually have him at just over 300%, which that's not bad at all. It's
No.
after he gets buffed up from Sorrow and Yuffie, I've even been able to make Flagbearer Glaciella miss maybe one or two out of her chain, and it helps him live a little bit longer. So
Definitely.
he's no slouch when it comes to evade.
People underrated. He is one of the few tankier characters that has enough luck. The big thing for him that I love is the teammate evasion 25 buffs. That like really puts him into a different tier of evasion that he doesn't get innately. So yeah, not a lot of people think of it, but it's there.
Definitely.
It's there. And yeah, I do think they'll stick around for a while. Obviously we have Hyoh coming out, who's adds to the fire, and we still have 2 fire units coming out. I don't know if I love their vision cards, so I don't think there's like a lot of balance ramifications there, but just the fact that you have these characters to pick from and teams to potentially build for, how can I say it? Most favorite or least favorite thing about it is that because you have these different iterations of fire you can build now, water, I think, like is going to have a tough time, because the water team that's meant to counter fire is not the same that's supposed to counter fire evade, if that makes sense. So like, you can bring water to a firefight, pun intended, I guess, but it's not always going to work out the way you want, because the water units aren't universally good against all types of those fire units. So very interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think that folks out there who haven't built Miranda, I think they're going to want to look at her. I think that a lot of people in JP turned to her and kind of saw a renaissance. Obviously, she's had a lot of upgrades recently, like with Red Mage getting buffed up and her Mastery 2 and all that. I think that especially for her costs, like she's a really good counter. Obviously, Yuffie's buff kind of throws a little bit in a wrench in that with her jamming thrust, but she can ding up King Mont pretty well.
Absolutely.
At least, while that buff is wearing off.
Well, I even think of Pissarro. Like when I was trying to counter those teams, the fact that she can dispel his counter and dispel his evasion buff, like she shuts him down very easily. I'm a big fan of Miranda, quite honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's a great candidate, being magic scaling unit, that if you are running water and you're running like Astrius and like another physical damage deal like Perrine, you want that magic user in there for the vision card, just min-maxing stats. Miranda's great for that. Cool. All right, so then we also have Rysol. Good lord, that's going to be a hurdle. Rysol. So initial impressions on her. Obviously, brand new win unit.
I've had my impressions on her out there for a bit now. My thoughts on her haven't really changed all that much. She's a good unit. She's not a bad unit. Like she's worth 100 costs. She's got some nice things that she can do. I just think that she's not going to be like a meta type unit. I think that she has a specific use where she can really shine. Like she can bruise a little bit. She's kind of flexible against both magical and physical damage. She has kind of some life stealing barrier kind of capabilities that kind of helps her sustain. She can kind of play a little bit of a support role too, by kind of giving the healing effects to her teammates, which I really like. In terms of like going up against any sort of bruisers or tanks, like that's where she kind of falls off a bit. She lacks completely kind of in her penetration. She doesn't really have much to speak of there, and I think that's kind of, you don't really know what you're going to see in Guild War, for example. Like you might see a lot of evade, and she would shine a lot there, but maybe somebody throws a wall of bruisers at you or Sephiroths, and she's not going to be quite as good against those kind of teams.
Totally. Yeah, no, like I said, just finished the review today, and as I was going through it, I realized that she really like doesn't have many weaknesses. She is very well rounded statistically. There's no real like gaps. She's fast. She's got enough like attack stat that you're happy with it. And then in terms of like survivability, again, you mentioned she got protected shell. She does have a self barrier that's on the attack. She does have the an ability that regens health, siphons health, if you will, and the buff that does so. So, there's no like one way to beat her. If you destroy her barrier, cool, she still has protect. If you dispel protect, well, cool, she still self heals. So if you don't have healing power down, like there's many ways that she still does well. Heck, even her limit break, the defense pen down to enemies in the blind. If she can land that blind and they're starting like they're whiffing on her, well then she's not going to take damage. So like a lot of good things, but you nailed it. And it wasn't until I was going through the end of my like general thoughts that I'm like, wait a minute, this girl's like no slash res pen. Like it doesn't exist. It's literally non-existent in her kit other than the 20 from the Dagger. And so to only have 20 slash res pen is a major concern. The defense pen, I think she gets up to 50 with the trust on passive, right? So like,
yeah, even that is it's not competitive. It's I mean it's fine,
it's
like
fine.
it's workable. She's not going to be competing, I think, with Glassy, who is really good against everything. And I think that Glassy can fill that similar role even at 120 in terms of being an evade hunter. She's still going to be kind of strong in that role. She's one of the most accurate units in the game even today. So, if you're a win main, obviously you're going to grab her, but, or maybe if you're looking to get into wins and you haven't built up the older units, maybe this could be an opportunity for that. But personally, this is one that I was considering skipping.
Me too.
Yeah, I was considering, hopefully I would grab her maybe as I go for Vega or as I go for some of the other warriors later.
Yep. No, same. I've really been in a hard place looking at the really for more the Full Metal collaboration than anything. That's a very expensive banner that I'm not in a place to pull on that. I know we still have like maybe like 3 weeks to a month guesstimating, but even still, like that's and Hyoh coming out too. Now again, we mentioned his permanent pool. We'll get to him in a second, but some big decisions, and you talk about the vision card costs and this and that. So
it was one that I was going to pull, but then yeah, the Dark Ifrit just killed a lot more of my viz than I was hoping for. So I had to make a decision, and she's probably going to be the one that gets cut.
Yep, exactly. And ironically, I haven't heard great things about Wind on JP, which is stunning. I think it's mostly related to the power creep of 140. But that being said, like Wind is obviously still one of the most well-rounded elements, but it just seems that even with King Bradley and how good Earth is going to be, that even Wind still like kind of struggles overall. I have heard that Wind does relatively well against Fire Evade though, so from that perspective, if you have her with Flag Glaciella, like you can make Glaciella your tank buster and let Rysol do the evade busting. It's not. There's potential to do something there. I just don't know if it's worth it for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Gumi definitely knows that they overtune Glassy. You can see that they quickly kind of built up this insane ice meta just to keep her in check. It did for the somewhat, but obviously she still had one of the highest pick rates out there. And then they're intentionally, I would say, holding her 140 back here sort of deeper than many other units, just because I think you can ask most players out there, she's probably the best unit in the game, of the past year.
I would agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah.
That was released. So.
Yep. And it sounds dumb. Oh, God.
Until she gets her awakening, until Assadali gets her awakening, I can't see. Rysol is not going to be able to carry that same torch quite at that same level.
No, totally. And it's a good problem to have, but I think even forming a party of 3 for Rysol, you'd have trouble where obviously Flag Lassie like has to be that number 2. I can't imagine a team where she's not. So when you pick that third unit, do you go Sadali, do you go Joom? I've even seen like Ayaka be thrown out there. I know people have been using her recently in top 5 to like enable some of the damage dealing. And so it's a good problem to have, but yeah, you got like there's not a lot of overlap with some of those teams where all of a sudden you have like 3 very distinctly different units.
There is Edward who
I'm sorry,
I think I think he's actually a great unit. He's probably one of the best, if not the best free unit that we've ever seen. I don't know how well he can fit into a win team, but I don't know. He can be decent. I think that he shines better in the fist teams just because of all the card bonuses that really amplify that those strike teams. So
totally,
I think we'll definitely be seeing him there. Maybe people can figure out some good win comps with him. I'm kind of interested to get my hands on him and see what I can do with him. But
yeah, so well, good. So for those that aren't pulling for Rysol and don't really care about her, we have another unit also coming out with her. We have Hyoh coming out, and so
This was a big surprise because I got the impression that he was coming as a GL Fest unit when they announced him and teased him.
yep.
And I think they kind of alluded to later in the month too. So it almost seems like, even as late as that stream that they did, that he was sort of planned as a Fest unit. I don't know, did you get that impression too?
I did too, and particularly when they said it was 100 cost, I suddenly put him on a pedestal. With I know we've had some whiffs with like Shadow Links and Resnick the Hoppy per se, but there's a great precedent set for like global exclusive units coming in, and Gumi doing something to intentionally disrupt a meta, B, give an element a certain strength they didn't have. So like Esther obviously came in and like immediately shut down the Astrius water meta that was impending. They gave them a vision card that JP didn't have that had the 20 unit resistance, which like was a game changer for Lightning. Obviously Elena and Sylvie to the same degree, kind of the same thing. And I honestly thought Hyoh was kind of going to be the same, but as a permanent pool, I actually liked that decision, quite honestly. But I'm actually very underwhelmed by everything I've seen from him so far, in terms of what they previewed for the abilities that we saw. And so just kind of recapping what we do know for people here. He does have the Lancer, and my goodness, what's the other sub job he has? Knight.
Yeah, so that, I mean, right there, you're not excited about those two sub jobs. I mean, there's obviously with Knight, the sort of the silver lining with that job is the good passives,
Exactly.
but Lancer, it doesn't have good passives. Like it has maybe a couple of decent skills, and it's going to depend on which ones he gets there. But yeah, that's kind of a tough start right off the bat.
Yeah, so pretty predictably, you can almost always tell what a character's passives are just by who the other characters have had passives for these sub jobs. And yeah, the Knight one does have a good one with the 40/res pen on it. Lancer doesn't really have much. But if I'm looking at the abilities, so we knew his limit burst was kind of like this 5-range cross-shaped AoE, increases slash-res piercing ability, and it's triple hit, so that's cool. And I'll be honest, that actually could be extremely lethal because Yuffie's also got triple hit limit break. So if you go him triple hit, then her triple hit, like things are probably dead, right? Like so that's
good range on that too, up to range 5.
Yeah, it is. And then the Phantom Blade, this one lowers reaction ability activation rate, which number one, I'm actually very underwhelmed by, because that's like Fire's strength at the moment, is how much reduced counter chance they seem to have as a team and like what they have on like the Dark Ifrit Esper. And so that's almost like not redundant, but like, okay, that's cool. A lot of people have that. Lowers healing power, which is cool. It's a shorter range ability, kind of subs out what CT was doing for Fire for a long time. So I like it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This ability is a carbon copy of CT's thermal exposure.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is going to get like an EX upgrade where the healing down is going to get amplified, because that is one kind of shortcoming I think with Setia's, is that it's just a 40 healing down, and it really doesn't do enough to like shut down Velis. I think like it puts a dent in him, but he still can pop off and do pretty decent healing. So if this is like a 60 healing down or 70 healing down,
right,
then we're talking, then that can be pretty good. I hear you when you talk about kind of the Dark Ifrit, the reaction counter stuff, but it's always better if you can shut them off completely, and kind of doing that in a big diamond is I think it's still pretty good. But yeah, it all kind of hinges on the numbers, I would say, in terms of, is this going to be like a 200 mod potentially if it gets an EX upgrade?
Yep.
Here, obviously, it's showing medium, but we don't know like where the upgrades are going to come in.
It's true. And then the third one we know here is a single target. It's a 4-range ability that it destroys a physical barrier, which is cool, but like a lot of people have destroyed physical barrier right now. That's not necessarily like special or unique. And then the other thing that we do know is he does have a buff that I think is similar to Rysol's buff, which allows teammates to siphon health from the damage they deal. I think that was in the preview video they showed, but I don't know the specifics of it. I don't know if you've seen that or heard that.
I think they teased something about his counter ability, which was something like they would heal him back. I remember that.
Got it. That's probably what it is. So yeah, when you're looking at this character and talking about like what kind of utility does he have and like what kind of like range and specialness, he's physical slash, which is kind of like rampant everywhere right now, right? And then utility wise, the barrier break, like Sorrow already has an AoE barrier break. This isn't gonna like change that team at all. The healing power down, kind of the same thing. Saro's got that massive healing power down. Now again, it's single target, not AoE, but again, some like redundancy. So my copium for him is, and then we're talking about passive abilities, right? My copium is he has a brokenly stellar unique main passive. Like he has to. That's got to have like an above average amount of defense pen, some accuracy, kind of like the Rysol main passive, which he gets 40 defense pen as well as accuracy. Like he needs to have that on that singular passive. And then I hope he's hyper accurate, because if he's not, I like don't see a feasible way in which you put him in a team of 3.
It's really going to be interesting. I mean, obviously at this point we're only hours away from the data dropping, and we'll be able to kind of make firm judgments. But yeah, it's kind of hangs in the balance, exactly how, is he going to be sort of, oh, okay, he's pretty good, or is he going to be great, and then somebody that maybe he's going to be that bridge into a fire lightning team.
Yes.
And that would be kind of cool, especially where he has great sword, he has the great sword card.
Yep.
Maybe that's something you can team him up with Esther. Esther's probably going to be looking at a Mastery 2, maybe in the next fest.
Yep.
Obviously, she wasn't teased for this first one coming up.
Yep. And you can go the other way too. Put him with Jum, because you have that fire wind synergy and the great sword synergy. So that's my other like excuse to hold out for him, is those dual element synergies that we haven't had a chance to explore fully yet. That obviously hoping for that. And then the other thing too is just hoping for some like busted base stats. Like if this dude comes out and he's got the highest base attack in the game, like maybe that changes things, in terms of just like raw damage numbers. But yeah, my first glance, I'll be honest, I don't even know if it's like a cost 100 unit. I mean, I know CTA is, and it's obviously like some of the same utility per se, but man, it's kind of a stretch based on what we know so far.
Yeah, that's where the sub jobs really are the most disappointing, because like we said, there really isn't a ton of good skills that you're looking at. I mean, you can look at something like maybe Earth and Glory, like that has a high chance to slow, like that could be really cool. Maybe that's helpful for like PvE and stuff like that too. And obviously, he could be a great guild raid unit. He's obviously teased with the chaining there on the LB.
Yeah.
But I mean, Fire has a pretty stacked roster already for guild raids, so he's going to need to do something a little bit more than have a 3-hitter to force his way in there.
Absolutely. So good. All right. Well, talking about resource management still, in terms of awakenings or like transcendences, any characters in particular that you've done or expecting to do? I know we've got a break this week. I don't think I have anyone announced. Last week we got Ketone, Fred, Whisper, a couple others.
Yeah, so obviously we had the break last week. There was the second batch was released. There's a few new characters. I'm going to awaken Ketone eventually. I haven't gotten around to it yet. I have considered Seymour as well, just to kind of have that lower cost fire unit that I could throw in. Obviously, I've gone deep with King Mont and Yuffie. So I'm looking at those two. Aside from that, maybe Naya as well. I do like her as an SR. The cost to actually awaken and reincarnate SR units is, I think, fairly reasonable, especially for spenders.
I love her reflect. For King Mont, reflect on Naya alone is worth it. Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, it's great. Aside from that, I don't think I'm going to be awakening any of these other ones. I know that Lynx and Whispers, they have their fans out there. Whisper, actually, it's not a bad awakening. That was one that I recommended in my video. You're pointing at yourself. You awakened her already?
So I did.
Let's hear it.
I did. So in terms of total awakenings, I think I've done Warrior Light, Mashri, Sephiroth, Yuffie, King Mont, Whisper, and I think that's it for the URs currently. I think I have one or two more antlers that I'm like just holding back just in case. I've been fairly conservative per se with some of the reincarnations. I did Yuffie to about 40. I think I did Sephiroth up to 20. Warrior Light up to 20, and I think that's basically it. Whisper might be the first unit that I actually like eventually fully reincarnate, because like I can't help myself, and I just like that character and want to do something with her so badly that I'm just gonna do it. And like
just a personal favorite from the game.
Just be that guy that has the Whisper with like 11,000 health that like finally works. You know what I mean?
I would love to see another version of that character, like the unmasked Whisper, eventually, and have her come in as a 100 cost. That would be pretty cool.
Yep. And to be fair, she has gotten some buffs with the reincarnate or the transcendence. So it's pierce res and missile res. So I think obviously the days are gone of a character having like all resistances. That's just not going to happen. We talked about slash res as the most pertinent one. But if you told me that she can, she's at what 45% or whatever, like Pierce res and 45 missile res and has protect and shell, like I'm pretty happy with that. Those are still relative, or Pierce at least, relatively hard to penetrate through, and even the strike damage, right? She is,
yeah, she's got great strike resistance there. I mean, we talked a little bit about the strike teams, a few minutes ago. This is one of the rare units that exists in the game that does have a very strong base strike resistance.
Yep.
So
and yeah, so that Transcendence upgrade, they also upgraded Protection Break to increase the chance of being targeted. So you no longer have to rely on that Spellblade sub job for her to generate 8, which I absolutely love. Because now you can
that's big.
Play with Samurai. Not that it's a huge improvement per se, but like just having the flexibility is a good thing. So yeah, that's my Hail Mary.
That is the skill that she loves to spam too, just because it has the imperils or the breaks there pre-damage. So yeah, and you can, and that way, I mean, you would sometimes need to turn skills off or lean more for her into magic for her to use taunting spells. So
right.
She has more base attack, I think, naturally than magic. So that being able to use that skill for hate generation is much better.
Absolutely is. It definitely is. So yeah, either way, I'm excited to see more of them come. Like I said, I view them almost like a mastery upgrade 3. I love being able to see what they add for these. The fact that they upgrade an ability for every character is very cool. They do a lot of creative things with the abilities. So yeah, big fan of at least that portion of it.
Yeah, so we are a little bit delayed on batch 3. Like that, we were expecting that to come this week with these 2 new units, and that was supposed to be, I think, Rulgia and Perrine. So maybe we are going to be looking at them next week.
Yep.
I think both of those are good candidates to awaken. Those are recent, modern units. If you grabbed them, you're definitely going to want to awaken them.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I think that Gumi has been pretty generous with the antlers.
I agree.
Not so much with the scrolls. Like those are, obviously the big ticket items, but
yep.
They have been, I think, pretty in the early days here. They've given out a lot of those, and we did hit, I think, the milestone for the Discord, so we're going to be getting a few more of those in the mail here soon too. So
yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, obviously, those scrolls being a big bottleneck, and I'll be honest, I thought the Mind Spheres for the collab units would be too. For anyone that watched, I was like pretty peeved a couple weeks ago talking about it, but on the Mind Sphere exchange system, what hadn't dawned on me is that there's characters there that I know in my gut I'm literally never going to max reincarnate these units. Like, I am never going to max reincarnate Eileen. So, like, those 800 Eileen Mind Spheres, like, gone. And so I kind of went through my list of, like, all right, who am I literally never going to max reincarnate? And there's like, a sizable amount of characters. And all of a sudden I realized just how many Mind Spheres I had, so it became a lot easier for those collab units. So I definitely have a different take on that now.
Yeah, I haven't gone quite to that fire sale level yet. I went down to, like, on all my SR and MR units, I went down to 1700, 1720, so that I would have enough for the Transcendence, and then 80 if I don't know why I did that, but I'm never going to have that many scrolls to be able to do all of them, but I figured I'd start there and then, pick away at them if I need to.
I'm actually surprised you didn't go down the fire sale route, because when I was trying to awaken Yuffie, that's what I was running into, was that I didn't have enough of the Final Fantasy VII Mind Spheres for her. So I'm like, all right, I'll just, transfer these. But I figured you being so far ahead on her, you might have already done that.
I had so many of all those that I was able to get, like, something like, I don't know, 1,600 of the Rainbow Mind Spheres just from doing that. And I have a bunch left that I can get.
Wait a minute, so. You can go the SR and MR and they become rainbows? Is that what you were just saying? You can do that. That makes sense. They are all technically the same quality. Okay.
Yeah, so it's 100 to 1 exchange rate for those, and then MRs I think are 20 to 1, and then URs are 5 to 1.
You know what? I probably just didn't scroll down far enough, because those characters are probably toward the bottom of the scroll list. Okay. Good to know. Yeah. So I have a lot more to go fire sale at this point now then.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us essentially now to the Leonis Spy Report. This is where we look ahead a little bit. Obviously, GL Fest and what is coming, projected. We thought Hyoh would be kind of part of that, but who's the next unit we're kind of looking forward to then? And then looking at Raph, who was released on JP, the new Dark Tank, if you will, and just giving some preliminary thoughts of what we saw there. So we'll start with the GL Fest. Is there anyone now that you're thinking are in his place for, like, the next top tier unit, or who you're excited to see?
Yeah, so just kind of continuing that thread that we were talking about with Hyoh earlier. Uh, Obviously, everybody thought that Hyoh was going to be there at the middle of the month as part of that GL Fest as sort of the latest global original. He's obviously gotten pushed up, and they cleared out that spot, right? They moved, Warrior of Light got moved out early. Amnilus got shifted up. So something is going to be coming there, right? Where they're all those older units are getting Awakening. It seems like there could be another, fest, brand new 100 cost fest unit, presumably,
Yep.
or maybe they'll do a lower cost unit. Who knows?
Yep.
Um, I personally hope for. I'm still hoping for Roberta. I'm still hoping for an Olive.
Yep.
But yeah, how about you?
No, so I have this like sneaky pit in my stomach. It's not a pit. I'm exaggerating. That maybe it's actually Addison Rae that comes out as the global exclusive at that time. Like, it's only a matter of time, right? Like, when else are they gonna
Yeah,
do it? So there's that piece of me that's like, all right, that's like probably my like Occam's razor. Like the most likely scenario is it's gonna be that. But
that
like, yeah,
I was thinking that too because it would seem weird that like I mean obviously their whole point for bringing her and doing this collaboration is to get some of her fan base into the game. It would seem weird to me that they would introduce her unit like after all the hype from the anniversary and all these collabs is gone.
right.
So like bring those players in now. There's a lot going on in the game. There's big collaborations happening.
Yep.
It makes sense.
It does, right? And you figure there's been like 6 months of ramp up time per se. I don't know how long it's been, but they announce it, allow players to get their feet wet, get used to the system, accumulate some resources. 4 or 5 months go by, and now Addison finally drops, and now they can finally pull her and like you hit the ground running, as opposed to like releasing her 6 months ago and a brand new player has to like start from scratch. That's obviously super daunting. But yeah, I do think she's probably my likely candidate at the moment. But if I'm like fingers crossed holding out, I wrote down three here. In terms of like Final Fantasy Brave Exvius characters, I think I've moved on from Roberta at this point because I did have her this idea of like, oh, like Fire Pierce unit, but obviously like that's not going to be the case anymore. They could do something else there. She doesn't have to be fire per se.
Yeah.
But I do have a special spot for Wilhelm from Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. He's kind of like an Engelbert style tank, if you will. I could see that coming in some capacity, but then again, that type of tank is kind of outdated in the game, so maybe not. But the two others that I like too are Kryla, who was kind of a like exclusive unit for Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. She was a big like support character, but more importantly, like a breaker, an imperiler. So I like that idea of throwing her in the mix. And then Sieghard is another tank that I always thought was kind of fun, had some flair. So those are kind of like my GL Fest like targets, if you will, if I had to pick a Brave Exvius unit. But there's a bunch of others too.
I'm waiting for Gumi to introduce like the physical runic or the physical cover mechanic,
Yep.
and Wilhelm or a Sieghard would be
Great.
perfect for that. So
Seriously, yeah.
I feel like I'm surprised that after Celis, I mean, obviously the Celis proved how powerful that is. They'd have to find, I think, some way to kind of balance it a little bit better. They spent quite a while, trying to put her back in check.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
obviously they have to think about it a little bit more how it would be balanced. But I do hope that it comes because I would love to see that sort of mechanic introduced.
It's true. Well, and the thing with Runic Blade, you could make the distinction between if a spell was reflectable or not. And so it wasn't like blanket all magic spells, but we don't really have that same distinction for physical attacks. So you'd probably have to come up. If I had to guess, they would probably do something with like weapon attack type. That if it's like Pierce abilities, like completely immune, and like or like missile completely immune for like 3 turns, and then you'd have to do it that way and like pick your weapon type. But yeah, cool mechanic.
I thought it would be good if they kind of do it how like they did it in FFBE, where it's not like a complete runic, dissolve of the spell. It's more just a percentage where, the tank is essentially covering at that point, and all the damage that was going to hit everybody in an AOE or whatever, it
Yes.
hits the tank instead, but it's at a
Yes.
reduced percentage. That would be kind of cool.
Love the idea. That cover tank is something that I really think this game would thrive in. I know a lot of people kind of I initially pitched Cecil as that, where he has like that like teammate barrier. This is like way before barriers were a thing. And people were like, okay, so he can't like actually like aggro or tank damage, but he's like cover tank in the sense that he can give damage mitigation to teammates. And this is kind of like a roundabout way to still do that.
Yeah, I feel like they were trying to do that with that, but it just never really worked like how you think it should.
No.
Especially now that there's just everybody and their brother has a barrier break. So
That's right. That's
yeah,
exactly it. Which I'm cool with. Barriers were pretty broken for a while. It's nice to have some but that's part of the randomness and the balance. You don't know which
yeah.
characters have barrier breaks, which ones don't. So run your Sephiroth with a barrier break, and you hope you don't encounter another Seph. But if you encounter a team without a barrier break, like your Seph's eating good. It's
Hmm.
nice. So yeah, all right. So then, what about Raph, the new Dark unit? Any thoughts immediately from you?
Yeah, so she dropped while I was on vacation, and I really didn't have much chance to look at her, but I did take a pretty good look at her earlier today. Did up some mock builds. She looks really really good to me. Um, we were talking a little bit about this earlier, but she just has all of the tools that you'd want for a tank. She's got a 50% all damage barrier. She's got re-raise. She's got an insane counter against slash damage that 100% proc rate to just cut the damage by 20%.
Yep.
She's got a heal back ability. She's got some area and single target resistance. She's got nice base resistances, defense. And then that's not even talking about any of her offensive things. She has some breaks and imperils, and
Yeah.
so she's got a stacked kit.
I agree.
What?
Well, and we mentioned that with Rysol a couple of minutes ago too. It's that character that has so many good things that you can chip away at a couple of them, but one of them's gonna retain. So even if she has that heal back and you go healing power down, like that's fine. She still has the re-raise or the slash mitigation that you're talking about. So there's
Mhm.
there's enough there that there's no easy way to take her down. It's nice that she's a magic oriented unit, if only because I know a lot of what Dark had done through its meta was magic oriented. They obviously got a little away from that with Sephiroth now, which I think is fine, but it's nice to see that its core component is a magic unit as you kind of cycle out some of those characters. And yeah, it's good to see she's got a consistent, like a Dark Imperil. I've actually heard rumors slash jokes that it's the kind of ability you actually might turn off and have her opt for some of her other ones that are more impactful. But still, it's a 100% hit chance. There's a lot to like about the kit, the sub jobs. I don't necessarily know a ton in terms of like how you utilize the AI per se, but Scholar and Spellblade do tend to have some good passive abilities. I know one of the weaknesses that they mentioned was like cast time related things, which is good. You like to see a character have some weaknesses, and I think the cast
Yeah.
time was one of them for her.
Yeah, that's the problem with Scholar is that it does have, if you were looking at like the big strike damage spell that they have, that one does have a pretty long cast time to it, so that kind of makes it a little bit tougher to use. I do actually like her main job sub because it has that the Curaga, and that
Yes,
one is instant,
yes,
and so that's going to heal pretty nicely if you think about maybe turning off the 100% hit chance in auto. Then if she can't hit an evade unit, she's gonna maybe heal herself up, and so that'd be kind of cool.
yep,
Um, yeah, I like it.
yeah. No, I'm a fan. My the side of me that wanted Whisper to work is a little sad. The side of me that was hoping for a bogusly large Dwayne global exclusive upgrade is a little sad. But that could still happen too. Not counting that out either. But no, it's good to see Dark have that because I know they really did need it for quite some time now.
Well, I know for a while they said they just weren't gonna make a dark tank just because it would make dark too powerful. But I think they have gotten all the other elements to kind of a more of a parity, amongst each other, and they finally felt like they could, give Dark that piece. But maybe that kind of gives them the freedom to go a little bit different direction with Dwayne, which is what I hope they do, and kind of turn him more into a bruiser rather than a tank, because he was kind of shoehorned into that role, and I think he's always wanted to be kind of more just kind of a stout kind of damage dealer.
Yeah, and I'm cool with
So
that. I still love the 5 hate on him, and I've talked about this to death where he got very power crept by the tanks for a while there because they would have the taunting spells that he didn't have, and they had protect and shell and types of region that he didn't have. But now there's or barriers, and now there's barrier breaks and dispel protects, and there's dispel to dispel that kind of hate. And so the gap that was created between him and the other tanks is much smaller than it had been historically. And I actually think he's almost semi-viable, literally as we speak. I still love the Dragoon upgrade that gives him protect on that sub job to like go forward and just like take a couple physical hits. Yeah, he's weak against magic, but that's cool. Like, not everyone's perfect. He still doles out a bunch of damage, has the disable, which is a type of damage mitigation if you can, disable your enemies. Like, so I actually don't think he's that far off, quite honestly. I just got to actually put it into practice.
Yeah, the AoE disable was always pretty rough.
Right? Right, that could, like, literally end your fight right there. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
if he can't take 3 hits. They're not going to hit you 3 times.
Yeah.
So
It also kills the unit's evade too.
exactly.
To hit. So
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, again, then I think you actually have to hit for the disable to proc. Or do you? Do you have to hit or no?
you do have to hit on that one. The disable comes post damage, but if you manage to get lucky or whatever on a hit, that's
Right.
going to take their evade down to 0.
Yep. All right, so that takes us to our last portion here, the Leonis Town Square. This is where we take questions submitted by you, the viewers, and again, please, we don't have enough of these. Submit them in the comment section, DM us on Discord, however you can get in contact with us. If you have a question literally about anything in the game, doesn't even have to be topical, we are happy to discuss it and throw it in here. The one that we were asked most recently was talking about collabs, and it's kind of a multi-part answer. It's asking which collab do we think we should return the most and why? What we'd change a little bit, and then what collabs would we want to see that we haven't seen yet. And I know we kind of dabbled with that with our 2022 year in review, collabs we wanted to see, but things have obviously changed a little bit. We'll start with the first part here. Do you have a collab in particular that you think should return, and what would you do a little bit differently with it now?
I have a feeling that we're gonna want the same one here, and I would
wait. Can we do the marriage, like the marriage game? I got a piece of paper here. Hold on a second. I'm gonna write down my guess.
Okay.
And then we're gonna see if we thought the same thing. Okay. All right. What's your collab option?
I'm gonna say Near Automata.
Yo, that's it. It's probably written in reverse. Yes, it is. Near. Yeah.
We're a match.
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, first of all, I love Nier. I love that universe. The music is an all-timer for me. Like, it's phenomenal. So I just want that back in the game. Obviously, I want to see 2B and 9S get their upgrades. They don't have Mastery 2s. They don't have 140s. So they desperately need it. Like, they've been unusable for a while now, and like outside of kind of PvE or niche situations.
Yep.
So let's get them back in the game. Let's get A2 in the game.
Yes.
Obviously, they already have the models there for Adam and Eve. Well, they were kind of the bosses, so those are probably going to be thrown in as units as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what do you think?
No, same. Near for the same reasons. 2B, I love the potential of them bringing her back, and Wind has gone away from evasion by and large. But if you give her the right upgrade, she could be a cog, particularly because of the vision card of hers. So number one, I obviously want them to come back just for the character upgrades. It'd be cool to see him back. Number two, I feel so bad for people that missed out on the 2B vision card. That's such an important Wind vision card to have that luck for them, where obviously it's not just evasion, but it's also accuracy. And so sure, we get this new like vision card that we were just talking about for Rysol, and there's like the Typhon card, but like there's nothing like a good 35% luck card. So desperately want them to have access. And then the pod accessory, that is such a critical equipment item. And yes, there's a substitute with the Solar Rays or whatever, that's the Veln selection quest item, but it still doesn't have the same agility. It still doesn't have the defense and the accuracy on it. And you want to put it on 2 units occasionally. You want 2 units to have unit res. Like, I love that. And you touched on...
use that all the time.
All the time. That's what I mean. It's not been, I feel bad. How could you play this game without that? And you brought up a great point. A2, I think, is an exceptionally good character to bring in. For those that aren't like in the know per se, Octopath, Champions of the Continent, they have Near collab running right now this week, and A2 is like the most hyped unit of that entire game. People are like going bonkers. They've literally like quadrupled their revenue in the month from the Near collab alone, and people are like praying for A2. Because what good she is, and I would love for them to introduce her here as well. Add that 3rd unit. She technically in the game does wield either dagger, sword, or axe, which I think would be super cool for War of the Visions to throw in like a character that could equip 3 different things there. Yeah, I would love for that.
And they did the same thing in FFBE too. Like, she was a global original back on like the original Near 6-star banner way back when.
That's right.
So yeah, let's do it, Gumi.
Do it.
Come on.
Yeah, that's right. So then the second half here, What collabs would we like to see that we haven't seen yet, Final Fantasy or otherwise, and who would the units be? I don't even remember what I said in our video from 2022. Do you feel strongly about collabs you want to see yet?
For me, I mean, it's still more tactics. I think that was what I said back then, and yeah, I still want to see. I think we talked about Y Graph and Millia Duel, and yeah,
Yeah,
more tactics. They obviously they need their 140s too. I don't want to wait two more years for that. So
totally. No, I'm on board. I mean, that's the big draw of look at everyone in this game in the first place. I see no reason why they wouldn't keep milking
and
that.
legitimately, like when that collab came back, there was like a big buzz around. Like a lot of people were coming back and playing the game, and obviously, a lot of them probably have fallen off at this point, but I think it's a legitimate draw to the game. Like there are a lot of people that love that property, and obviously there's a big anniversary with the game that's coming up. So hopefully there is some plans around that.
Yeah, no, there are a ton of characters. I know Griff is also my favorite as a candidate to come back, but there's certainly a diverse cast of characters that they could reach in and absolutely have some fun with. Dude, you could pull like a Construct 8 unit, you know what I mean? Like the robot, bring him in, like have him be the slime equivalent of the... Like, there's a lot of things you could do.
Yeah.
I mean, so speaking FF, for me, I still am a fan of 8 and Final Fantasy 8 coming. That being said,
Yeah.
I know they'd bring Squall, and I'm like kind of on the fence about Squall. I like him a lot. Actually, ironically, I have his like action figure right here behind me in all my videos. But I'm more of like a Laguna fan, which I know would be like the second year that collab runs. But yeah, any other Final Fantasies for you, or any thoughts on that?
Eight is a big one for me, but I'd say like maybe just as much would be 9. I love Garnet and
Yeah,
Zidane and that whole cast too.
that game has aged well for me. I look back fondly. It's still not one of my favorites if I had to make like a top 5 list, but if they introduced a Final Fantasy 9 banner tomorrow, I would not be unhappy. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously they would have to have Vivi in there, and hopefully he would be a free unit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. For
So
sure. And then I think non-Final Fantasy, just for quickly, I think the most realistic ones, if I was being realistic, Octopath Traveler would be one of them, where they were actually run in Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. I didn't even know it at the time, where they ran like Primrose and Ulbrich and a couple characters, and I can certainly see them doing that again. Again, it's kind of a similar title that they're running. Like, I see no downside marketing-wise why they wouldn't. I also know they kind of, for a while in Brave Exvius, Kingdom Hearts was an option, and although that's not like my favorite IP anymore, it was like 20 years ago when I was 10. That's kind of a jab at the game. I like, dude, Kingdom Hearts 3. I was like, I was cringing the whole time. Like, it is not aged well for an older demographic.
really, I haven't played the third one yet. I did really like the first couple, and obviously the music, like the Dearly Beloved song, that's another like all timer. Like
All
that
timer.
song is crazy good.
No, the plot line
But
just got like crazy levels of like Inception and just like plot Kai and like too many it became very apparent that they had to cater to Disney's level of like conflict resolution and like I don't want to say dumbing it down, but kind of did. Like, they had to like make it a game for 10-year-olds, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
story wise, regardless, I know Final Fantasy FFBE leaned into that. I could see that being a collab here too, as they kind of re-examine the series. I know Nomura has some intentions with that, but yeah.
that would be cool, especially if they brought like the alternate versions of Sephiroth and Cloud along with it too. I know they
Oh,
did that in FFB.
they did. They did.
So
They brought the yes. I would love to. I love those designs. The cloud design is so good.
yeah, really
Yeah.
cool.
So cool. All right. That's any other thoughts for collabs, or that kind of wrap it up for you?
No, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff they could do. Obviously, I mean, the precedent has already been set for like external properties. Like obviously they had Persona, which I couldn't believe it when that game came.
Shocked.
But yeah, I would love to see more like non-square properties. There's a lot of cool stuff out there.
Yeah. No,
So
totally, totally. I just don't know the logistics of how they do that, but
yeah,
hopefully it'd be a game that I play. That's all. That's all you ever hope for, right?
yep, yep.
But yeah, so good. Well, that concludes everything we were going to talk about today. Obviously, a lot going on with third anniversary, and we have a bunch more we'll see tomorrow with Hyoh's release and what how well this aged. We'll find out. But
Cross my fingers that he's going to be good.
seriously, the copium is real. But no, that's it for now. JB, I'll just say a few words, then I'll do the final sign off.
Yeah, so good to be back from vacation, getting back into the swing of the game, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you guys next time.
Most definitely. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you all soon.